Have you ever been played? Have you ever meticulously planned that perfect Vegas getaway only to crawl back home, your wallet hundreds of dollars lighter, feeling like a complete fool for falling for a digital mirage? Well, welcome to the grimy, unspoken truth of Las Vegas. Beneath that dazzling neon facade and the hollow promise of celebrity endorsements lies a predatory gauntlet of overhyped tourist traps, meticulously engineered not to build your memories, but to bleed your bank account dry. The people who actually live here, they know the score. They see past the smoke and mirrors and recognize the city's most legendary attractions for what they truly are. Glittering, sophisticated traps set for the unsuspecting. But you're in luck. I'm about to pull back the curtain and save you from the crushing disappointment. And you absolutely must stick around because the final con I'll expose is the most insidious of all. A trap that ensnares nearly every single wide-eyed newcomer. Kicking off our list of shame at number 10, Vanderpump. A place that has perfected the art of being Instagram's most glamorous disappointment. The moment you cross the threshold into Vanderpump at Caesar's Palace, you're hit with a calculated illusion. They lure you in with velvet booths, dripping crystal chandeliers, and seductive lighting. A perfectly curated stage for every aspiring influencer. On your phone screen, it's a fantasy where magic seems possible, but the second you take a seat, that fragile illusion shatters. And the first glaring warning sign? The drinks. Oh, they're undeniably photogenic, served in ostentatious glassware with theatrical smoke billowing over the rim. But for an astronomical $20 to $25 a pop, you're not just expecting a drink, you're expecting an experience. You're expecting bold, unforgettable flavors. What you get instead is a weak, diluted imitation designed purely for a photo op, a complete insult to your palate. And don't even hope the food will salvage this disaster. It won't. Locals will warn you it's a dangerous gamble, with entrees that read like poetry on the menu, but taste like mediocre bar food masquerading under a fine dining price tag. And then there's the so-called vibe. Forget a glamorous Parisian escape. The tables are packed so tightly together, you'll feel less like a VIP and more like an extra on a chaotic, overcrowded movie set. The decor is undeniably beautiful, a hollow shell with absolutely no soul. It's a universal verdict from those who escape. It looked nice, but never again. And this exposes a much larger, more cynical problem. Las Vegas has perfected a predatory formula. Slap a celebrity name on something and jack up the price. Unsuspecting tourists see a famous brand, be it Lisa Vanderpump, Bobby Flay, or Gordon Ramsay, and they're duped into believing they're about to experience world-class cuisine. The grim reality? They're paying five-star prices for what often amounts to fast food quality. Vanderpump is the poster child for this entire sham. I'm telling you, if you're searching for an experience that's actually memorable for the right reasons, the locals will plead with you to ignore the Instagram bait and seek out places that stand on their own merit, not on a celebrity's name. The hidden cocktail dens of downtown or the authentic culinary gems in Chinatown serve up far superior drinks, infinitely richer flavors, and they do it for a fraction of the cost. So by all means, go to Vanderpump if all you want is a pretty picture for your feed, but if you demand actual substance, it's a one-time mistake. And believe me, if you think that's a ripoff, just wait until you hear about the next must-see attraction that robs you of your time before you even get there. Coming in at number 9 is the Great Sphere Pilgrimage. It's all spectacle and zero substance. From afar, the Sphere is a sci-fi marvel, a vision ripped from the future. At night, it's a hypnotic light show, morphing from a colossal basketball into a winking jack-o'-lantern. Tourists gaze at it from the strip, utterly captivated, and the same thought ignites in their minds. We have to get a closer look! But ask anyone who lives here and they'll issue a blunt, desperate warning. Do not waste your precious time trekking out there just to stare at its exterior. Let me paint you the brutal reality. That walk is a grueling 45-minute ordeal from the main strip. And your reward for this journey? Absolutely nothing. There's a shocking lack of anything to do. No shaded plazas to escape the sun, no engaging displays, not a single interesting angle for a photo that isn't just you against a bleak concrete wasteland, that mesmerizing otherworldly orb you saw from a distance. Up close, it transforms into a disappointingly bland, massive wall of lifeless panels. You'll see them everywhere. Tourists snapping one pathetic, awkward selfie before turning right back around, a look of pure regret on their faces as they question why they ever abandoned the glorious air conditioning for this blistering hellscape of pavement. And we cannot ignore the raw, punishing desert heat. During the peak of summer in July and August, the temperature skyrockets to a punishing 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Locals just shake their heads in disbelief watching the sad procession of heat-stroke tourists making that pointless march, only to stagger back to the Strip, sunburned, dehydrated, and furious. If your Vegas trip is short, this is an unforgivable waste of time you can never reclaim. Now, let's be crystal clear. What happens inside the Sphere is a completely different universe. The shows are, by all accounts, spectacular. The mind-bending visuals, the pitch-perfect acoustics, the way that 360-degree screen completely consumes your senses. U2, The Eagles, Postcards from Earth. These are truly once-in-a-lifetime events that are worth every single cent of the staggering ticket price. But the outside, it's nothing more than a giant billboard. And the price of admission is your sweat, your time, and your energy. So here is the only sane strategy. Admire the spectacle from a safe, comfortable distance. The only decent views are from the Strip itself, where the orb's garish light show mercifully blends into the rest of Vegas. Get your picture there, and for God's sake, don't go any closer. Then spare your legs and what's left of your sanity for an attraction that isn't a complete and utter fraud. Because if you thought wasting 45 agonizing minutes trekking to a concrete ball was a nightmare, just wait until you hear about the next so-called romantic Vegas classic that will bleed you for $150 just to float in a glorified mall pool. Number 8. The Venetian Gondola Rides. This is where romance goes to die amidst a cacophony of consumerism. On the surface, it's a carefully crafted illusion of Vegas romance. You and your partner, drifting under fake stone bridges while a hired singer belts out a tired rendition of O Sole Mio. The lighting is strategically dim. The water has a chemical shimmer. And for a fleeting, delusional moment, you almost forget you're trapped in the Nevada desert. Sounds like a dream, doesn't it? Well, that dream shatters the instant you realize you just paid $40 per person to be paraded through a high-end shopping mall. That is the cruel, deceptive catch. The canals at the Venetian snake past luxury storefronts, fast food counters, and hordes of gawking tourists, pointing their cameras at your manufactured moment. Instead of Venice, you're adrift in a sea of souvenir kiosks, with echoes of chaos bouncing off the walls. The ride itself is a pathetic 12 to 15 minutes long. Blink and the swindle is over. And unless you're willing to be fleeced for a private gondola at over $150 per couple, you're crammed onto that boat with total strangers. Absolutely nothing screams romance like sharing your honeymoon moment with two random tourists from Ohio who won't stop talking. Locals have a running joke that these gondolas are less about creating cherished memories and more about staging fraudulent photos. And they are absolutely not wrong. Scroll through Instagram and the canals look like a fairy tale. But in person, the crushing artificiality is impossible to ignore. The sky above you is a painted ceiling, the water reeks of chlorine, and you are literally drifting past a food court. You must also consider the staggering opportunity cost. For the same amount of cash, you could escape to downtown, experience the raw, authentic character of Fremont Street, or savor a handcrafted cocktail at one of the city's genuinely cool hidden speakeasies. Even better, you could save that money for a world-class show or a meal that actually feels special, not like a cheap staged production. Now let's be brutally honest. If all you're after is that one tacky, over-the-top Vegas photo op, then maybe this farce is for you. But do not delude yourself. This is the photo op, not an experience. And once you've fallen for it, you will almost certainly never want to subject yourself to it again. Still, at least with the gondolas, you get a bit of singing and some movement for your money. The next tourist trap on our list has the audacity to charge you up to $75 just to stand in a line for lukewarm scrambled eggs and crab legs. And it doesn't even come close to living up to its own legendary name. Number 7. The Bellagio Buffet. A fading legend coasting on a reputation it no longer deserves. Say Las Vegas Buffet and the Bellagio is the first name that tragically comes to mind for most. It's supposed to be legendary, isn't it? The magnificent fountains outside, the opulent hotel, that pervasive aura of luxury. It all conspires to set you up for a dining experience as iconic as the property itself. But the moment you step inside the buffet, that illusion crumbles into a harsh, disappointing reality. This is not the 5-star culinary paradise you were sold. Here is the grim breakdown. Prices hover around a shocking $55 for a weekday brunch and skyrocket to nearly $75 on weekends and holidays. And that's before you even dare to order a drink. For that kind of outrageous price, you should be demanding world-class flavors, groundbreaking dishes, and impeccable service. Instead, what you get are endless lines, claustrophobic tables, and food that is a masterclass in looking far more impressive than it actually tastes. Sure, the spread boasts prime rib, crab legs, and sushi, but the flavors are tragically bland, often cold, and almost never memorable. Locals who've been duped will tell you it's fine, but let me be clear. Vegas is not a city where you should ever pay $70 for fine. It is the culinary equivalent of buying a designer handbag only to discover it's made from the same cheap material as a knockoff from a back alley. And then there's another issue. The entire experience feels frantic and rushed. The staff can be completely indifferent, the seating is uncomfortably tight, and the overall vibe is less classy dining and more chaotic high school cafeteria. You don't feel like you're dining in one of the Strip's most prestigious hotels. You feel like you're in a battle, desperately fighting to get your money's worth before the next wave of tourists storms the gates. Now, let's be fair for a moment. If this is your very first trip to Vegas and you feel an inexplicable need to say you've done the Bellagio Buffet, then go ahead, check that sad box on your list. But if you are looking for a buffet that truly embodies the legend of Las Vegas dining, insiders will steer you toward the buffet at Wynn for its sheer elegance, or the spectacular Bacchanal Buffet at Caesar's Palace. A city that boasts an infinite array of genuinely spectacular culinary experiences, the Bellagio's buffet is a disgrace, coasting on a name it no longer deserves. In a city built on spectacle, this makes it one of the most insidious traps of them all. But if you think queuing up for grotesquely overpriced scrambled eggs is the ultimate insult, the next tourist trap elevates the deception to breathtaking new heights. It promises you the world, a rush of adrenaline and neon views, but what it delivers is a 30-second slap in the face. Number 6, the FlyLink Zipline. A 30-second swindle for a staggering $55. Just imagine the scene they sell you. You're strapped in, your heart is pounding, poised to soar like a hawk over the legendary Las Vegas Strip, with a river of neon lights blazing beneath you. It sounds absolutely legendary, doesn't it? That is the lie of the FlyLink Zipline. But this is the grim reality. You're not rocketing over the Strip whatsoever. You are lazily gliding over the Link Promenade, which is, in essence, a glorified shopping alley choked with souvenir shacks and chain restaurants. And yes, an In-N-Out burger. The entire pathetic journey lasts about 30 seconds. That is all. Your brain doesn't even have time to process the view before it's ripped away from you. And for this blink and you'll miss it mockery of a thrill, they demand around $55 for a single ticket. You want a photo or video as proof of your ride? That'll cost you extra. By the time you tally up the damage, you've been bled for nearly $70 for an experience that feels less like a main event and more like a stale appetizer. Be warned, the locals know this is one of the Strip's most flagrantly overrated cons. The outrage isn't just the pathetic duration, it's the insulting setting. Instead of soaring above iconic casinos and the dazzling light shows you came for, you're just skimming above crowds of tourists, munching on fries and haggling over t-shirts. The adrenaline rush dies before it even begins, leaving most riders to walk away muttering the exact same thing. Wait, That was it? Now, if you demand a zipline that actually delivers on its promise, Vegas does have one. Slotzilla down on Fremont Street. Yes, it's a bit pricier at around $70 for the Superman line, but the difference is a chasm between night and day. There you are flying headfirst, screaming under the electric canopy of Fremont, engulfed by blasting music, blinding lights, and chaotic cheering crowds. It feels raw, it feels alive, it feels like the real untamed Vegas. The Flylink, in stark and shameful comparison, feels like a cheap sanitized demo for a ride at a county fair. Let me tell you the brutal truth. Vegas has perfected the art of selling you the illusion of grandeur while ruthlessly cutting corners on the actual experience. The Flylink is a textbook example of this bait and switch. A marketing masterpiece that is an absolute failure in practice. But hey, at least it gets your heart racing for a fleeting moment. The next tourist trap, however, is a supposedly free show at Caesar's Palace that won't cost you a single dime, but it will steal 7 minutes of your finite life that you can never, ever get back. Number 5, The Fall of Atlantis Show. A creaking relic from a bygone era that simply refuses to die. Wander through the forum shops at Caesar's Palace and you'll hear the sirens call before you see the wreckage. The music swells, the lights theatrically shift, and a clueless crowd gathers. You're tricked into thinking you're about to witness something truly magnificent, and then the cheap plastic statues begin to talk. And you have the horrifying realization that you've been duped into stepping back in time to the year 2002. The Fall of Atlantis show was, at one point, considered a Vegas novelty. Robotic figures stiffly recounting a mythological tale, complete with so-called fire effects and a booming, over-the-top narration. But by any modern standard, it is agonizingly, embarrassingly outdated. The movements are as rigid as a board, the dialogue sounds like it's being broadcast through a broken drive-through speaker, and the special effects barely qualify as special at all. The fire? It's more like a lukewarm puff of bad breath. But here's the most devious part of the trap. It's free. But do not be fooled. Just because it doesn't cost money doesn't mean it isn't a colossal waste. You will squander 15 to 20 minutes of your vacation waiting and watching a miserable 7-minute show, plus the pre-show shuffle, only to walk away utterly confused, disappointed, or both. Locals have a running joke that the only real entertainment is watching the faces of tourists morph from wide-eyed anticipation to an awkward, stunned, "Is that all there is?" disbelief. In a city that is now the global standard for dazzling digital art, mind-bending immersive installations, and truly cutting-edge shows, the Atlantis show feels like an embarrassing, forgotten artifact. Just compare it to something like Omega Mart at Area 15. A surreal, brilliantly executed, immersive art experience that can captivate you for hours on end. Or the absolutely breathtaking Arte Museum at City Center with its colossal living digital landscapes. Yes, those experiences cost around $50 a ticket, but unlike the hollow promise of Atlantis, they actually deliver memories that are worth a damn. So if you stumble upon a crowd gathering at Caesars and think you're about to see ancient gods wage war with Hollywood-level flair, turn around and walk away. The only thing truly epic about this spectacle is how tragically and comically dated it all feels. And yet, believe it or not, this isn't even the worst of it. Some people will forgive anything if it's free. But what happens when you're shelling out a staggering $90 or more for a so-called Vegas headliner? One that promises to shatter your reality, only to be served a heaping plate of smoke and utter disappointment. At number 4, we have the infamous Criss Angel's Mind Freak, a catastrophic case of all smoke, no magic. You can't escape it on the Strip. Towering billboards scream his name, Criss Angel's Mind Freak. Plastered everywhere, audaciously promising the most mind-shattering magic show in all of Las Vegas. The marketing assault is relentless, plastered on every taxi and hotel wall. But listen to the locals, the ones who know the truth. Behind that wall of hype lies a performance so hollow it leaves most feeling utterly cheated. Tickets begin at a galling $90, and that's before they tack on the fees, for a mere 90-minute spectacle. For that kind of money, you'd expect mind-bending, edge-of-your-seat illusions, wouldn't you? Wrong. Instead, what they serve you is a deafening rock concert masquerading as a magic show, with a pathetic sprinkle of illusion thrown in. Loud music, cheap pyrotechnics, and lazy, pre-recorded video segments. It's all spectacle, big and flashy, designed to distract you, but almost none of it makes you gasp and wonder how on earth did he do that? And that right there is the fundamental, unforgivable flaw. True magic creates an intimate connection, a chilling sense that the impossible is unfolding just for you. But Mindfreak brutally murders that intimacy, drowning it in a chaotic mess of lasers and smoke machines. Instead of wonder, you're bludgeoned with sensory overload. Locals who've endured it describe a cold, impersonal experience, as if Criss Angel isn't performing for you, but just at you, not with you. To be brutally honest, perhaps the die-hard, loyal fans might find some value in the theatrics, the nostalgia, and the sheer noise of it all. But for anyone seeking genuine, breathtaking sleight-of-hand brilliance, Las Vegas has far superior, more honest offerings. Heed this warning: Paranormal at Horseshoe delivers haunting, interactive illusions for a mere fraction of the price. And Shin Lim at the Venetian masterfully weaves storytelling with such flawless sleight of hand, it feels like you're witnessing true sorcery. These masters don't need to hide behind blaring guitars to leave your jaw on the floor. So while Mindfreak's billboard might loom large over the Strip, it's a catastrophic failure where it truly counts. It's the ultimate glaring proof that Vegas will always sell you empty spectacle over genuine substance. And if you think that's a soul-crushing disappointment, brace yourself. The next tourist trap inflicts a deeper wound, preying on the fame of a beloved TV show from the last decade, luring fans across thousands of miles, only for them to discover it's nothing more than a glorified gift shop. Coming in at number 3, the Golden Silver Pawn Shop, the place where television magic goes to die. Admit it, if you've ever watched Pawn Stars, you've said it. Next time I'm in Vegas, I have to go to that shop. Don't feel bad, you're not the only one who's been duped by the thought. For over a decade, the Golden Silver Pawn Shop has been a reality TV titan, a beacon drawing in hopeful visitors from every corner of the globe. But here is the cold hard truth that locals know. The moment you step on site, the magic evaporates into thin air. First, let's talk about the shocking deception of its size. On your television screen, the shop is portrayed as a vast, sprawling treasure trove, brimming with quirky artifacts and priceless rare coins, and unique, one-of-a-kind memorabilia. The grim reality? The shop is, shockingly, almost comically small. Most visitors are pushed in and out in a whirlwind of 10 to 15 minutes, and if there's a line snaking outside, which is terrifyingly common, you will waste more time baking in the sun than you will actually spend inside. And then, the second betrayal. The people. Countless tourists stumble in, their eyes wide with the hope of meeting Rick, Corey, or Chum Lee. But here's a brutal spoiler alert: they are almost never there. This isn't a TV set. It's a functioning pawn shop, and you're not part of the show. There is no filming, there are no charming interactions, there will be no selfies with the stars. What you get for your pilgrimage is a cursory glance at some dusty display cases and a cynical wall of branded merchandise. And, if you're lucky, the glorious opportunity to buy an overpriced souvenir t-shirt. Now, I suppose we can't say there is absolutely zero appeal here. The most die-hard, obsessive fans might get a fleeting thrill from seeing an item that once graced their TV screen. And yes, it's a hollow brag to say you've been there. But for the vast majority of rational people, it is a pathetic 5-minute detour that in no way justifies the mountain of hype. And this reveals a much darker truth. Las Vegas has perfected the art of turning screen legends into soul-crushing tourist traps. But almost invariably, as is the case here, the reality is a pale, pathetic shadow of the fantasy. Locals will plead with you. If you crave genuinely unique shopping, flee to the antique stores and oddity shops in the Arts District. There, you'll find actual character, real treasures, and mercifully, no line. So while Pawn Stars may endure as a television fantasy, the actual shop is, at its absolute best, a fleeting photo op. And if you found that to be a crushing anticlimax, just wait until you're lured 25 minutes into the desolate desert for the next so-called Instagram hotspot, only to be greeted by rattlesnake warnings and an art installation whose very existence is hanging by a thread. At number 2, we have the so-called Seven Magic Mountains, a sweltering, dusty detour engineered for a fleeting, hollow selfie. You've been manipulated by the photos. 7 garish stacks of giant boulders bizarrely plopped in the desolate Mojave Desert. They explode on Instagram, a lurid, surreal, almost alien mirage. And because of this digital deception, the Seven Magic Mountains have tragically become one of Vegas's most popular and misleading side trips. But let a local tell you the devastating truth. Once you actually make the trek, the experience is shockingly, profoundly underwhelming. To start, you're forced to endure a 25-minute drive south of the Strip into absolute nothingness. Upon arrival, you're greeted by a barren, dusty parking lot with no shade and not a single restroom to be found. All that's there is a pathetic little trail leading to the rocks. You snap your obligatory photos, wander around aimlessly for a miserable 10 to 20 minutes, and then it's over. There is absolutely nothing else to do. No visitor center, no amenities, and worse, there is no shade to escape the blazing, merciless desert sun. In summer, the heat routinely skyrockets past a punishing 110 degrees Fahrenheit, making the entire ordeal almost unbearable. And yes, let's not forget the ominous rattlesnake warnings posted right on site. The installation itself is undeniably a spectacle, but it's the grim, empty context that completely murders any sense of magic. Surrounded by a void of desert emptiness, the boulders feel more like discarded props than a genuine destination. Most visitors escape, muttering the same heartbreaking refrain. It looked so much better in the pictures. And here's the final insult, a detail most tourists are completely oblivious to. The lease for this site expires in 2026. There's serious talk of ripping the installation out and relocating it to Reno, meaning in just a couple of years, this famous must-see could be completely erased from the Vegas landscape. So is it truly worth the pilgrimage? If you're a devout art lover, or just that desperate for that one Instagram photo, perhaps. But for the vast majority of people, it's a long, dangerously hot detour for a pathetic 15-minute payoff. Locals will urgently advise you to find a more authentic desert experience by visiting Red Rock Canyon or the Valley of Fire, places where the landscape itself is the awe-inspiring masterpiece, not just some painted stack of rocks. The Seven Magic Mountains serve as a brutal cautionary tale. In Vegas, not everything that glitters on your screen has any substance in person. And speaking of fraudulent photo ops, the most iconic one of all, the famous "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas" sign, might just be the most colossal time suck of them all. At number 1, we have the "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas" sign. Iconic, yes, but an exhausting ritual that every first-time visitor feels compelled to perform. There you are, standing under that glowing beacon, arms outstretched, ready to announce to the world that you've finally made it to Sin City. It's a rite of passage, it's free, and it feels like an absolute must-do. But ask any local, and they'll warn you that this sign is the single most overrated and physically draining tourist trap in the entire city. Here is the damning proof. The sign is stranded at the very southern tip of the Strip, meaning it's a grueling trek from most hotels. Once you finally arrive, the grim reality hits you like a blast furnace. There's no shade and no semblance of crowd control. And depending on the time of day, you could be sentenced to standing in a miserable queue for 30 minutes or more in the scorching Nevada sun, all just to snap one single photo. In the inferno of July and August, when temperatures climb past a hellish 110 degrees, that wait feels like you're being slowly roasted alive inside a giant oven. And when you finally get your turn, you have about 30 frantic seconds before the next group is breathing down your neck, ready to push you out. Forget about a relaxed, leisurely photo shoot. You're rushed, hustling through poses while a stranger clumsily takes your picture with their phone. Add in the blinding sunlight, the incessant roar of cars on Las Vegas Boulevard, and the general chaotic scramble, and the so-called magical moment devolves into an experience that is far more stressful than it is celebratory. That being said, the sign is an undeniable icon. Locals won't tell you to skip it entirely, but they will plead with you to be strategic. Go at the crack of dawn or late in the evening when the agonizing line has disappeared and the light is actually perfect. Or, better yet, skip the wait altogether and take your photo from the side. It's the same sign with zero of the stress. But this points to a larger, more sinister lesson. Vegas is utterly saturated with attractions that look phenomenal in slick ads or on Instagram, but fail to deliver anything but bitter disappointment once you're standing there in person. The best experiences in this city are never the ones plastered on billboards. They are the hidden gems, the local favorites, the moments that catch you by surprise instead of just methodically draining your wallet. So, there you have it. A damning expose of 10 of the most overrated tourist traps in Las Vegas. From overpriced gondolas to buffets that are tragically past their prime, locals know these spots are a complete sham, not worth the hype. My solemn advice is this: do not fall for the glossy marketing lies. You must explore deeper, spend smarter, and unearth the real Vegas that most tourists are never allowed to see. But now, I demand to hear from you. Have you ever been let down or even scammed by a Vegas attraction? Drop your horror story in the comments. I am eager to read about your experiences. If this critical warning has saved you from the predatory traps designed to drain your wallet and your time, then smash that like button and subscribe to arm yourself against what's coming next. Vegas is a master of deception, but here, we will always tear down the facade and expose the cold, hard truth.